Hey guys, my name is Ashley Everett, and today I'm going to be talking to you about why communication is important to biologists. So, many of you have probably heard about the EPA, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. But back in the day when it did exist, it used to be the foremost channel of information between biologists and the public. And it was very important because of the EPA, people were able to understand what biologists were doing and why it's important. Unfortunately, since it no longer exists, that makes it harder for biologists to communicate with the public. And so I just wanted to talk about a couple of key factors that are important for communication with biologists. Those are going to be voice patterns, factual evidence, excitement and passion, easily understandable language, and social psychological context. So with voice patterns, it's very important for the person speaking, the biologist, to sound excited and to be easily understandable, and for their pattern to be low and relatively even. That just makes it easier to communicate to the public as well as to other biologists in terms of research projects and other important information that they may want to share. When it comes to factual evidence, this is something that's going to be important for every single person speaking. You never want to give false information to anyone. That just causes more problems than you'll even know. Factual evidence in terms of biology is very important. As biologists, we want to ensure that people are getting the correct information so that we can help the world and make sure that it is working the way it should be. We want to make sure that people are understanding the information being presented to them. And then excitement and passion, one of my favorite things. I'd actually like to add in a story here about what I do, my biological work at Liberty Wildlife. Around fall and winter time when it's hunting season, we get an influx of California condors, which are an endangered species. And the reason these birds are coming to us is because they have lead poisoning. And the lead poisoning, what it does is it causes a calcium buildup in their necks and in their throats, and they're no longer able to eat, and they essentially starve to death. At Liberty, we have a fantastic veterinarian. Her name is Dr. Kathy Orr, and she has developed a technique that has been able to save a lot of condors from dying. What she does is she will make an incision in their neck and will keep it open so that they can essentially be tube fed until the medication that they're given for the calcium buildup works, and then they are re-released. This is one thing a lot of people don't realize. Lead-based ammunition is very harmful to the environment. It's harmful to condors especially. They will either be shot with the bullets or they will eat the remains of hunted animals that do have lead in their bodies, and this causes the calcium buildup. So that's one thing at Liberty that's really important, is we do the rehabilitation of California condors, and that's kind of our effort to help the species beat extinction, because we don't want them extinct. They're pretty cool. Easily understandable language is also another thing that's very important to biologists. When communicating not only with peers but with the public, it's very important that the language is understandable so that people know really what's going on. If you throw in a bunch of scientific jargon to the public, they're gonna wonder what the heck you're talking about. They're not gonna necessarily know what electrophoresis is or centrifuges or talking about DNA strands. They're not necessarily gonna understand that. So when talking to the public, you're gonna wanna talk in terms that the general public is gonna be able to understand. However, this does get different when it's biologists talking to their peers. It is more appropriate to use scientific jargon because biologists do typically understand that, and it helps them get their point across a little bit easier, and it's a little more complete. Their efforts are more complete. The last thing I want to talk about is social psychological context, and that kind of has to do with easily understandable language. Again, if you're talking biologist to biologist, you're going to be speaking differently than if you were talking to the public, who again may not understand some of the things you're talking about. Overall though, communication is very important to biologists. We just want to make sure that the public understands our efforts and the public is able to help us with our efforts. It's very important for the public to be able to listen and understand and take in what we're saying. We really do need help with a lot of our projects and a lot of our research. We do look to the public to support us and help us with our efforts. And it's also very important that the public understands enough so that they can tell their friends, their families, their peers, their coworkers, anyone else that they may talk to, just to get the word out, to make sure that biologists aren't doing all their work for nothing. So it's just an open channel of communication between not only biologists and biologists, but biologists and the public. So again, yeah, vocal patterns, very important in any speech, but especially for biologists. You want to make sure that you're talking to people in a way that they can understand, giving factual evidence, making sure that everything you say is a fact and cannot be disputed whatsoever. That causes problems. You don't want that. Excitement and passion, something that everyone has to have if they're talking about something. If you're not excited about it, the audience isn't going to be excited about it. So you want to be excited. You want to share that excitement with people. Easily understandable language. Again, you don't want to throw in a bunch of big words that people aren't going to understand. And then social psychological context, making sure that you are using the correct words, the correct language when you're talking in different situations. And now many of you may be wondering what you can do to help, what you can do to make sure this communication is complete and that it flows well and that the channel remains open. It's very simple. All you need to do is just keep an open mind, be ready to listen and take in the information so that you can share it with other people so that you can understand what's going on. That's all we can really ask you to do, and honestly, it's a big help. So yeah, that is why communication is so important for biologists and the work that they do. Thank you.